into that
Yeah, I mean,
Forever Young.
yeah, working through, well, three things that I'm still working through, or am working through, something, and then I started picking up the Wish You Were Here again
Oh, good.
for all kinds of reasons. So that's, as I think we've talked before, it's always interesting to go back and do something that you did a long time ago, and hopefully you have a different skill set that can be applied there too.
There are all kinds of times. I mean, this is really common where a lot of times I'll have people work on songs that I know that with this attempt at it, it's not going to be stage ready. We're not trying to get it to where you could perform it or record it, let's say.
Right.
But we're just trying to get it to a certain level to up other skills and knowledge and all that kind of stuff. And then and we kind of get to that point, and then sometimes that would reach almost a slight level of frustration. It doesn't seem like it's going anywhere right now, or something like that. But then 6 months or a year or even 2 years later, we might come back, and now we're ready to take it up a level. Like get the next
Yeah.
stuff out of it that we really couldn't the first time around. And some of these, like looking at a lead, is something we really haven't done, that we haven't pursued to like get it down really well. And but yeah, this might be a perfect thing for that. It's like, oh, now you could definitely take that up a notch that we couldn't have done a year ago. Or not that we couldn't have, but it would have been sort of a diminishing returns kind of thing. It's like, man, you're going to be like, it's the snail crawling up the wall of the well or something.
Yeah.
And but if we let it sit for a while and do all kinds of other stuff, and you get some other skills, under your belt,
Yeah.
then it's now it's this grasshopper trying to get out of the well.
Right, right.
So
Yeah. So I guess Forever Young fell into the category of other stuff where I that guy pops up on my YouTube feed
okay,
because um, he's a longtime, I think, friend and maybe schoolmate of Josh Turner,
oh
who
yeah, oh he's
popped up on my, and so they both pop up on my YouTube feed all the time.
okay,
He pops up and he does lots of stuff that, like, he does John Prine songs,
wow,
John Hyatt songs, and he does a lot of those. What he was doing there, just a solo arrangement. He has has a nice voice, like you said,
yeah,
a really nice voice, and it usually looks playable, but really nicely done.
yeah,
So when I saw that, I mean, it was just such a nice version of that song,
yeah,
but it was different than any version that I've seen.
yeah.
That song.
And when you mention now that you mentioned Josh Turner and this guy, um, I forget that there and a lot of my younger I've got about four high school age students right now too,
Yeah,
and they do find interesting things at YouTube and want to mess around with them sometimes. Well, one in particular does, and but it's usually some kind of shredding thing. That it's like it's stuff that's way off the realistic radar. But it's young people doing some pretty cool things. And I really think Josh Turner is a great ambassador for this next generation of seeing somebody that young. He's probably 30ish, maybe, I don't know.
yeah, probably. Yeah,
And obviously really talented and really has his heart in doing all this stuff. So when I see some of his videos, with him and his friends singing Crosby, Stills, Nash songs or some things like that, it's
right.
like this is really cool because they're kind of bringing the message to more of the generation, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. And he has Josh Turner. He has lots of Paul Simon stuff. He's a big Paul Simon guy, and
Yeah,
and there's really a lot of really good Paul Simon stuff out there. Of him. But anyway, this guy, the other guy, Carson McKee, the one that the Forever Young guy,
right.
there's a video of them that's got to be 15 years old. It seems like, or 15 years. Yeah, 15. Well, they look like they're maybe 15 or 16, and they're at some camp on the East Coast, and it has a very southeastern kind of name. Swansea.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a really famous Sawana Noah.
Sawananoa. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. That
That's
is a really famous camp. Many one of the guys that works at our camp or that teaches at our camp has been there many has taught there many times.
okay.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah. Well, they're doing way back and when, sitting out in the middle of a park. The Richard Thompson, Vincent Black Lightning,
Oh, yeah.
52.
Uh huh.
Josh Turner playing the banjo, and this guy singing the lead and playing the guitar. It's really fantastic.
Yeah.
You are really amazing to me that they were that good that long ago. And he's, he's on, they're on different instruments and everything.
Yeah.
But I suppose that anyway, that all is why um, he pops up on my feed, I guess. And Forever Young, I just really loved what he was doing there. But honestly, I read that little note that he posted. That was a reply to somebody, and I I didn't really have time to sort through exactly what was going on there with that partial capo
Yeah.
on A, D, and G,
Right.
and playing at the second fret and playing in G shapes. I didn't honestly didn't sort through all that. That didn't compute for me. Although watching him
Yeah.
play, I could see the chords he was playing, but I didn't quite take enough time to add it up and say, oh yeah, now I understand what he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And what that does is it effectively puts the guitar in a dadgad tuning. I'm not sure if he mentioned that in his thing, but have we? I don't know if we talked about that at all. Okay, so there are all kinds of. We can just spend a couple minutes on this if you want. Then we can go into what you've been working on. But so if you, anyway, we'll see how this goes. There are all kinds of alternate tunings people use, obviously, right? And the simplest one, or the first one most people start with, is just drop D, where you tune the sixth string down to D, and that gives you a whole different. As a matter of fact, Dylan's version of Forever Young is in drop D, um, and the first version. There are two versions on that record on Planet Waves, and one of them is just kind of a silly country sort of song, and they're labeled Forever Young 1 and 2, and they're consecutive. Oh, on the record, one was at the end of one side and the other was the beginning of the other side on Planet Waves, his 1974 album that he did with the band. But anyway, and so usually when people play that, their covers of it, there are that one that is much more melodic. Like I think Dylan's other version went something like it was in A, I guess. May God bless and keep you always. May your wishes all come true. May you always do for others and let others do for you. What it's just stupid,
Yeah.
as opposed to that really pretty melody that we have with that descending bass. We have a really pretty chord progression and
Yeah.
pretty melody and stuff. So, but getting back to alternate tunings.
Oh, that's good.
Well, that's me. There we go. I got, yeah, just a call coming in. The second, then there's a whole family of tunings, or a couple of families, just called open tunings, where you tune the guitar to an open chord, so that when you strum it, it's a D chord, or a G chord, or an E chord. And
Okay.
then all of the strings are tuned to one of the three notes of the chord.
Okay.
And so one of the most common ones is open G. So if you think about a G chord, in a G chord we've got three open strings anyway.
Yeah.
Well, those are going to stay, those notes, you're not going to change those. What you're going to do though is, so the three notes in a G chord are what?
Um, well, they're G and B and D.
Yeah, so that's our three notes in G, G, B, D, 1, 3, 5, right? And the so the open G tuning, which is a really really fun one, and there's a lot of great songs we can play in it. Has every string has to be tuned to either G, B, or D,
Okay.
and there are different strategies of how to do that. Not so much with G, but with different tunings. But like for example, a lot of people use an E tuning. if you think about an E chord, you've got three strings that you're fretting and three open strings.
Right.
Well, the simple E tuning is you take those three strings that you've got fingers on and you
Yeah.
tune them up to those notes.
Okay.
So you tune the A string up to B,
B.
you tune the D string up to E, and the G string up to G sharp. Now, when you strum it open, you've got that.
Yeah. B. Right. Okay.
Now, that the danger in that, for me, is tuning strings up just doesn't seem like a good idea, for the guitar. Tuning them higher.
Yeah.
It unless you've got relatively light strings. I keep medium strings on my guitars. I'm not about to tune them any higher than standard, but we could do the equivalent with that E tuning of taking some of the other strings down as if so that they're all the equivalent of where the notes were at the second fret. In other words, if a couple of other strings go down two frets,
Yep.
and the G string goes down one fret, we have the same thing. We have the same arrangement of notes, but now it's a D chord. So that's an open D tuning.
Okay.
Okay? And don't worry if that all that math didn't add up, but it's kind of like that's the principle there. A D tuning and an E tuning are the same thing, just at different levels. I mean, the same arrangement of ones, threes, and fives is so every string is tuned to one of the three notes of that chord.
Right.
It's just that for the D tuning, you tune the E string goes down to D,
Yeah.
and the A string stays the same because that's it. That's it, and the D string stays the same. Anyway, that's the idea, right?
Okay.
So with the G tuning, it works a little bit differently, or not. It doesn't, but G, everything has to be G, B, or D. We've got three open strings that we don't have to mess with. They're all good.
Right.
The three that have note that we have to fret are not going up to those pitches. We're not taking the E string and tuning it up to G.
Right.
We're going to take it down to what note?
You take it down to D.
Right. What are we going to do with the A string?
We're gonna take it to G.
Right. And then the same thing with the high E, we're going to take that down to D.
Yeah.
So what we have in that G tuning, now some people would use an A tuning by doing the opposite, tuning the three, like think about an A chord.
Yeah.
They would tune those three strings all up a whole step. Now you've got an A tuning.
Okay.
That is mathematically exactly the same as the G tuning we just went to by tuning the other strings down.
Right.
Okay? So again, I'm not a fan of an E tuning or an A tuning because D and G do the same thing
Yeah.
and get you that arrangement of notes. Anyhow, so those are what are called open tunings. Generally, when somebody's talking about open, it means you're tuning it to a particular chord, so that you've now got a chord already a default chord that you can play.
Okay.
Then there's another whole family called alternate tunings, where you're just changing certain strings, and it's not really a chord. Like I talked about drop D. There's a whole bunch of some great songs done in double drop D, where the first string goes down to D as well.
Okay.
And Neil Young has a bunch of tunes like that. Joni Mitchell probably used 30 or 40 different tunings over her career as a guitar player.
Okay.
And there's a whole website, her website, somebody that takes care of her website, has all the tunings for all the songs she played and tablature to even many of them and stuff like that. And her strategy was her left hand, she had physical problems with her left hand. She couldn't play a lot of normal chords. Well, if you go into an alternate tuning, many times you might only play one or two strings at a time to get the sound you're looking for. I mean, to get interesting sounds. So sometimes she would just tune the guitar randomly and then mess around until something came out of the ether and she would turn it into a song. And David Crosby, a good example, kind of a comrade of hers back in the early days. Same type of thing. Has all kinds of songs in bizarre tunings that are relatively easy to play once you get in the tuning. Guinevere is a great example. You cannot play Guinevere. Can you get that song in your head? You know what song I'm talking about?
Yep.
Beautiful little guitar thing with harmony vocals with Nash and stuff. And I think the tuning on that is something like the A and the B strings are reversed. Like the A goes up to B and the B goes down to A.
Okay.
And then a bunch of his songs are done in that tuning, So anyway, so that's the story on that's the background story on the end of this story. So the end of this story is what's evolved into a really, really common and popular tuning is what's called Dad-Gad. And that's where the 6 strings are D, A, D, G, A, D.
Okay.
From 6 to 1.
Yep.
And so the sixth string goes down to D. The A and the D strings stay the same. The G string stays the same. Those three strings stay the same. The fifth, fourth, and third.
Yep.
And then the top two strings go down a whole step to A and D. Hence
Right.
the dad gad, right? And that's almost like open D, because when I was kind of alluding to the E thing, if that G was an F sharp, it'd be a full open D tuning.
Yeah.
All we have is D's, A's, and F sharps, or D's, So Dadgad essentially is a suspended four tuning. I mean, we've got D's and A's, which are 1 and 5 with a G in it. So it's a D sus4 would be like the name of the chord if we were going to call it that. Anyhow, Lawrence Juber used to play in this almost exclusively, and did all kinds of beautiful instrumentals in this tuning. People that also play a lot of Celtic stuff and modal stuff really like this. So there's a whole world of Dadgad fans that just think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. And actually, to sideline for a second, the person that really, it's hard to say created this, but thought of it and popularized it was an English guitar player named Davy Graham. And I don't know if we ever talked about him, but he was in London in the early days when fingerpicking stuff was starting to evolve with the likes of Bert Jansch and John Renbourn and Al Stewart and Jimmy Page and Paul Simon. This folk music scene that was evolving in 1962, 63, 64 in London. Davy came back from traveling through northern Africa, particularly in Morocco, with ideas about stuff he wanted to do on the guitar that were different, and it involved these different tunings, and Dadgad was kind of what came out of it. Was what he wanted to. So he started playing stuff in Dadgad, and now particularly in the 80s and 90s, it became just it took the guitar world by storm. The reason I put the capo on here and I'm grabbing my thumb pick is Davy Graham is also credited with this. That we all first heard on a Simon and Garfunkel album.
Yeah.
And Paul Simon learned that from Davy Graham. It was
Okay.
so Angie was written by Davy Graham, and John Renbourn always talked about that song as like the discovering fire in terms of what guitar players could do.
Yeah.
That it had three elements that became vital to fingerpicking. Well, probably more than three. A repetitive bass line. It could be hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more, no more, no more. All kinds of songs use that bass line,
Yep.
But muting the bass was one thing. The next section to Angie pounds on the bass. It goes. Now this heavy pounding on the bass is something that they had all heard. All these English guitar players had heard from a blues guy named Big Bill Broonzy. And boy, sorry about this. See, I'm not afraid to get up on stage and just start talking about anything, right? Okay, but especially stuff I'm knowledgeable about. I'm a little dicier if we got to talk about the price of rice in Europe or something. But still. And it had another element that became really important in songs, and that was this. Notes played in 6. Harmony in these voices, and all of that is in Angie. So it's kind of like Angie was the big bang in guitar, in the world of guitar playing. And Dadgad was also like a little subplot of that, all really because of this guy named Davy Graham.
Okay.
Okay, so here's the end of the story. When you put a capo across, when you raise these three strings, the fifth, fourth, and third, you've essentially put your guitar in Dadgad tuning.
Okay.
And so everything he's doing there, if we could tune your guitar, like um, you wouldn't need the partial capo if we just took the other three. If we went into standard dadgad, took the sixth, second, and first strings and took them all down a whole step,
Okay.
then you could pretty much finger everything the way he did it, and you'd get that sound.
Okay.
So one of the things that was kind of cool about the particular arrangement that he got was so he's thinking in the key of G, but it's really put him in A because of the capo and how he's doing all that. In other words, so it's as if he's got a capo at the second fret and playing G,
Yeah.
but the guitar is playing these notes at the second on the. It's a different arrangement of the tuning, right?
Right.
And the one thing you can hear really clearly when he plays these notes is that the two strings on the top are the same. You hear something like this, and then so you hear the same note played on two strings while the bass is descending through that little sequence. If you go back and listen to it and pay attention to the high notes
Yeah.
on the opening chord and the second chord, and we could get that in standard tuning by doing it in the key of A, and it would sound something like this. Well, I play my A chord using an open A in the bass, and leaving the first string open, and then just playing the second, third, and fourth strings as notes that they would have been out of my barred A chord at the fifth fret. So like this little F major 7.
Yeah.
If you move that up, move that up to the fifth fret. Yeah, and now you've got an A chord. You can hit all 5 strings. Yeah. Okay. And
Yeah.
that has the top 2 strings being the same note. They're both E's. So I'll mess with this a little bit more. Let's get on to the other stuff that like something and the other things we were talking about. Wish you were here, but
Um,
I'll look at make.
let's stay with this.
Oh, okay, good.
Let's stay with this. Yeah.
All right. So the chord progression then here that we could get. So we got to get our brains then in the key of A.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are the chords in the key of A, or what's the key signature for A?
A has well, maybe C sharp,
Okay.
um, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp.
Yeah. Okay. So the key of A, music written in A will have 3 sharps.
Right.
And when you label, if I just wanted you to tell me what sharps were in A, you wouldn't give them to me in the order they appeared in the scale. What order would you give them to me in, and why?
Okay.
Why did I even bring this up? Let's go deeper.
No, this is a good. This is a good question. I've actually wondered about this. Um, so, how would I give them to you, and why? Well, I only want to. I would give them to you. Let's see. So I'm thinking along the lines of I'm looking at the staff,
Okay.
thinking they're right up here. Um, let's see, I just did it in the order of the scale, so that's not the answer. I could give it to you in the low to high. That's the same as giving it to you
Okay.
in
Let me give you a hint.
okay.
The circle of fifths has something to do with this.
Okay.
Is that a hint? What can you glean from that?
Well, let's see. The fifth in A, the fifth in A is E.
Okay. And any idea off the top of your head what the key signature for E is? How many sharps?
Two.
Okay, let's back up then and talk about the circle of fifths for like 2 minutes.
Okay.
Um, can you picture? Do you know what it is? Do you have much of an idea of what it? I mean, it's a picture like a clock. It's got 12 notches on it, right?
Uh,
And it's showing us keys and key signatures and how they're related to each other. And
huh.
at the top of the circle, do you have that book, the Guitar Handbook?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, read up on, take a look later on at the circle of fifths, unless you have it right there, but I'm sure there's a picture of it in there somewhere. And if not, I could email you one.
Yeah.
But it should be easy to find a circle of fifths.
Yep.
But, and it's a way of keeping the key signatures straight in your, or organized.
Okay.
And at the top, at 12 o'clock, we have the key of C with
Right.
no sharps and flats.
No sharps or flats.
And as you go around, like from your direction, as you go around clockwise, we start dealing with the keys that have sharps in them. And as we go around counterclockwise, they're the keys that have flats in them. Okay? So at 1 o'clock, we have the key that has one sharp in it.
Okay.
What key is that?
The top of my head here, I want to say it's G.
Good.
Yeah.
And what is the sharp in the key of G?
F sharp.
Okay, perfect. What step of a C scale is G?
7. Oh, the C scale.
Yeah. I backed you up with
Yeah.
it.
Okay. Yeah. Um,
But that's going to be my next question. So remember that answer.
okay. It's 5.
It's 5. That's why this is called a circle of fifths. As you go around clockwise, it's always a fifth to the next
The
knot.
next one. Okay.
Okay, and if you think about, to get really deep into this,
Yeah.
we know that our C scale has, by definition, the C scale creates our pattern of whole steps and half steps for a major, what we call a major scale.
Right.
And that puts a half step at 3 and 4 and 7 and 8 because that's where E and F fall and B and C. Okay? Um, if we start on the fifth note of that scale, which is now G,
Mhm.
and apply that pattern, now we're going to build a G major scale.
Mhm.
Well, it's going to go G, A, B, C. Very convenient. Our half step from the previous key that had been 7 and 8 is now 3 and 4. It fit, it fell right in place.
Mhm.
But as we continue, we reach the E to F half step, which we have to change because we need a half step from 7 to 8, which is G, getting to G, right? So by starting on the fifth note of any scale
Yeah.
and building a scale on that note, we're going to have to add one more sharp to fix the other half step. The one half step is going to fall in the right place. What used to be 7 and 8 is going to become being 3 and 4 when 5 just became 1.
Okay.
Okay, you followed. I'm sorry. A lot
Yeah.
of numbers.
I'm picturing this. Okay.
Okay, good. Because we're getting into a little abstract math here, kind of obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, but so that's why in the key of G, I mean, we start on the fifth note of C, and all the notes fit except the E to F half step is screwed up. So we have to put an F sharp in there to fix the problem. So it is note 7 that has to be raised to make that scale right.
Okay.
So when you look at on the circle of fifths, um, what a lot of times the way this is laid out is on the outside of the circle you've got the name of the key.
Okay.
See up here, and on the inside of the circle, like 0, no sharps and flats. Now we go to 1 o'clock,
Yeah.
and we've got the key of G up here, and the note and the new sharp, F sharp.
Go on. Right.
Right. And now the key that's going to have 2 is going to be the fifth of G,
Right.
which would be what note then?
E.
And it's going to have D, you said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
The D. Yeah.
And I thought you said, yeah, that's what I thought. I thought, oh, wait, I better double check. Okay, but it's D, right?
Yes.
Okay. Um, um, and it's going to have the old sharp. We still got to keep the F sharp, but it's going to have a new sharp, the new seventh note. It's got to have C sharp in it. Then,
Okay.
so the key of D has two sharps, F sharp and C sharp.
Okay.
That's the order that they're written on the staff to tell us that it's the key of D. So now you look at a piece of music. If there's only one sharp, it's an F, and it's written on the top line of the staff.
Yep.
And if we have two, they're written. We put the F sharp there first, and then the C sharp down below it in the space.
Okay.
And then if we need three, it's going to be F and C and the new third one. And if we have four, it's going to be F and C, the new third one, and the new fourth one. And so it's cumulative.
Okay.
So the sharps get added. So the key that has five sharps has the four sharps from the key that had four plus its new seventh note.
Okay.
And that continues all the way around the sharp side or the sharp direction of the circle.
Yep.
Okay? So
Yep.
to get back to the question I asked you like a long time ago now, was the order you would want to think of them in A is you always think of the order of sharps as being kind of, it's fixed. And you go through as many of them as you have to until you get to the one that is the last one in whatever key you're in.
Okay.
So the order of sharps is F, C, G, and then they continue through more keys. And as far as we're concerned as guitar players, we really only commonly play in five keys. And they're the keys from 0 to 4 sharps. So those are the keys that you'd want to have like right on top of your head of what those key signatures are. We just went through four of them. We talked about C with none, G with one,
Right.
D with two, A with three. So the answer to the question, the sharps in A, they're F, C, and G is how you want to list them, because
Okay.
that's the way they're going to appear on the key signature in the music.
Okay.
And
Okay.
just to complete this lecture and story for now, what key is it then that's going to have 4?
Uh, E.
Yeah. And then the 4 sharps in E will be our 3 existing ones, which were,
F, C, and G.
and now,
Um, so I just need to go to, okay,
in G, what was the new sharp?
F,
So in E, what's it going to be?
G. No?
We already had G. Remember, you already gave me F,
Oh,
C,
yeah,
and
C,
G.
G. Oh, we'll have maybe A. No.
The relationship of the
Vision there. Okay.
what was the relationship of the new sharp in each key? In the key of G, that was F sharp. What's
Right. That was 7.
so
Right.
in E? It's
So in A it would have to
E.
be
Oh yeah. So in A, it's G,
G.
but now we're in E. We're in the key with 4 sharps now.
Right. So it's got to be D.
Right. So that's the 4 sharps we'd have in the key of D, and that's the way you want to label them: F, C, G, D.
Okay. So fifth, 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 fifth. Seventh is the new sharp in each case.
Right. So that relationship of the 7th is from the inside of the circle to the outside of the circle. In other words, we're talking about the key and its new sharp. But
It's
when we're talking about notch to notch, those are fifths.
yes, notch. Okay, right, right. Each one of those is a fifth, and then each of those is seventh. Um,
The new sharp is always the 7th.
the seventh of that new key.
Right. Right.
Right.
So almost by corollary or geometric proof, the relationship of the sharps to themselves, F to C to G to D, those are fifths too.
Right. Do it. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sure. Sure.
So as you're when you go notch to notch on the circle, it's always a fifth.
Right.
Whether you're on the inside of the circle or whether you're talking about the sharps themselves or the names of the keys.
Right.
Right. But the relationship between the key and its sharp, that's the relationship where that new sharp is always note 7 of the key.
Right. So is it the last interval of that key?
Yeah, it'd be the last note of the key. So like if we were talking about the key of B,
Right.
the seventh note in the key of B would be
A sharp.
right. Now it gets tricky. Suppose we're talking about the key of F sharp. We could have a major scale. There is such a thing, the key of F sharp. What's the seventh note?
Well, it can't be F because you can't duplicate them.
Okay.
So it um, it's E. Is it E?
That's not far enough. That's a whole step away from F sharp, right?
Yeah, that's a whole step. Yeah.
You're on the right track though. You're knocking on the right door and you're not believing it's real.
I mean E sharp.
It's E sharp. Absolutely. E sharp is the seventh note of the key of F sharp.
Okay. All right.
It
Okay.
just happens to be a white black key.
A white black key. Okay.
Okay? Yeah. And so the key of F sharp, and actually I just went through the next two keys. We got to the key of E that has four sharps. So that's down here at like 4 o'clock.
Right.
Well, at 5 o'clock, we'd have the fifth of E, which would be what?
C.
Too far. Don't forget where you start is 1.
Oh, right. B. Yeah.
Yeah. So the key of B has 5 sharps, and that new sharp is A, which we got to just a minute ago.
Right.
And but then if we go to 6, now we're at 6 o'clock. We're at the bottom of the circle. If you just do the letters B, if you just go through the alphabet, you'll get B, C, D, E, F.
Right.
But what we really have to be doing is following the B scale. We had a pile of sharps in the key of B. We had 5 sharps, one of which was F sharp, our first sharp.
Right.
So actually, F sharp is the key at 6 o'clock because it's the fifth note of the B scale.
Okay.
So the key of F sharp has 6 sharps in it, and that means we're out of black keys.
Right.
It's a white key, but it's E sharp.
Okay.
And we could actually go one slot further. We could go to 5 o'clock. No, we're at 7 o'clock now, I guess. Yeah, sorry.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock is F sharp. If we went all the way to 7, we'd be at the key of C sharp. A fifth from F sharp would be C sharp, which would have 7 sharps in it. So it would include the E sharp, it would include all 6 other sharps, and now it'd have to have B sharp in it, similarly to F sharp, to be the last note of the key of C sharp.
Okay.
And this is further than we need to go. So here's the end of that story. If the key of C has no sharps in it,
Yep.
the key of C sharp must have all of them. It's got to be C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, and that's the end of the sharp world. Is it goes all the way around to 5 o'clock. 7 o'clock. Okay, and but the 3 keys at the bottom, B, F sharp, and C sharp, actually could have been reached from the flat way as well.
Right.
And when we got to C sharp on the sharp way,
Yeah.
we would have been at D flat, having come through the flat way, the same note. But so the key of C sharp and D flat they're all the same keys on the piano, but they all have different names. If it's D flat, it's a pile of flats.
Right.
Okay. So anyway, when you go back and look at your circle of fifths now, you might see that down at the bottom those three keys, either 5, 6, or 7, either sharps or flats, overlap in terms of there's a flat key that could be called or a sharp key.
Okay. I get
Okay,
it.
that's the end of that story. Now back to the song for a minute.
Yeah.
Here's the chord progression. First you want to hear the A, something like that. I mean, just kind of just a little arpeggio picking in kind of any order. You could almost hit the bass note and just kind of strum it lightly like that. And but the interesting thing about the next couple of chords are he mostly just uses the major chords in the key in this section. It's only chords 1, 4, and 5.
Yeah.
But you can hear that what happens in the progression is the bass goes down the scale. So that'd be a G sharp. G sharp for the bass up here.
Okay.
Just hit that G sharp right. And then to F sharp as F sharp. Right. So that's the line. That's what we're hearing the bass do over these first three chords.
Okay.
And it's just that when those two bass notes are a G sharp and an F sharp,
Mm-hmm.
we need the major chords that have those notes in them. So something we touched on last week or recently is we need a chord that has G sharp in it, which is note 7 in our key.
Right.
Well, we know that chord 7 is a diminished chord.
Right.
That's not the chord we're looking for.
Right.
What's another chord number in the key that would have note 7 in it?
Another chord number in the key.
That would include note 7 as one of the 3 notes in the chord.
Oh, so it would have to be the fifth, the third, or the 1.
No, you're on the right track.
Okay.
Chord 5 has it, and chord 3 has it,
Yeah.
and chord 7 has it. Chord 7 is actually the one that has it as the root.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Now chord 1 would have it, but it would be the 7th note of chord 1.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so if we're only allowed to use triads, right? For
Right.
now, it's chord 5 or chord 3 has note 7 as one of the members of the chord.
Okay.
Okay, and to extend that, and it's going to be chord 5 that we want here because I just told you we're using only major chords for the first part of this song. So what we need is chord 5, which is what in this key?
We're in A, right?
Yeah.
Then chord 5 is E.
Yeah. So we would need to just play an E, but with G sharp in the bass.
Or with G sharp in the bass. I mean, so.
Yeah, that's okay. And what we're going to do that in just a second. We might rearrange it, but I think what we want to do here is play it with you don't need the 5th string in that E chord anymore. So just go back to your E chord.
Yeah.
Put your 2nd finger where your 3rd is, and now can you reach the G sharp? Yep, there you go.
Yeah.
Hey man, just in 2 or 3 weeks of messing around with that stuff we were doing in something.
It has helped a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that looks great.
Okay. Okay.
And then just make sure that the 5th string is either dead or you don't play it. We can't hear the open 5th string in this.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. And so that's what we need as the 2nd chord in the song. So we've got our A up here to our E with G sharp. And now the bass goes to F sharp.
Yeah.
And we don't want, and F sharp would be note 6 in our key.
Okay.
Which would mean it'd be the root of chord 6, which would then be F sharp minor.
Right.
Which what we want here is one of our major chords. So which of our 3 major chords would include note 6?
Of our 3 major chords would include note 6, 6 as its 5th. So, L as its 5th would be or 3rd, right?
Either one. So which one of those fits my requirements?
The major chords of D, E, and A. There's an F sharp in D.
There you go. So that's the chord, which is chord 4, right? So that's what we want when the F sharp happens in the bass, is a D chord. And one thing of the way, his name is Craig, right? You said the video, Craig McKee or something.
Carson.
Carson. Oh yeah, yeah, okay.
Carson.
Because of the tuning he was in, when he went to that third chord, D with F sharp in the bass, he actually kept the E ringing as well. He let the open E ring on the top that whole time, and it really gives you a nice pedal point in this song where we hear that E. Yeah, so however you want to finger that, it doesn't really matter. You know, your third finger has to be on the second fret though. Think about your D chord. Yeah, there.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, and that's an interesting progression. The rhythm of each chord, when it gets to the D chord, it stays there longer than the other two. Like basically, we have two sets of 2 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Can you hear the melody in there? That D chord is longer, you know?
Yeah.
So it's either unbalanced, or when he gets back to the A, he stays there for like just a half a measure or a measure and a half. In other words, so the phrasing could be a little bit weird. But you know, you could. You know, where we're going to go with this is you're going to listen to it and figure out the rest of it. You know, it's where I'm kind of getting. Okay, or mostly just figure out the phrasing, because it does end up using. I'll give you the rest of the chords. There's only 2 other chords that happen. When he gets into the chorus, forever young goes to 5 to E, and now can you hear there's a minor chord coming? Forever young. So it's F sharp minor. And now we're back into just some 1s, 4s, and 5s. Make you stay forever young. So aside from that descent where we had A, E with G sharp in the bass,
Yep.
D with F sharp in the bass.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we just had a standard A chord, a standard E chord, and F sharp minor was kind of the extra, the 6th man off the bench, you know.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Fun. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, see what you can put together now.
Yeah, I will do that. Yeah, that's fun. Okay, great.
And that'll sound real close to what Carson was doing because of without going into that tune.
Right, the other 2 without going to the tuning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, just the arpeggio that he's picking out there, I can just fiddle around with that.
Yeah, it could kind of be random. And even if you just played the A chord as a normal A, not as this little reduction from the bar chord, the only thing this gets us is the double E that you can clearly hear in his playing. It would not sound bad to do this. Don't forget, on this D chord, we were leaving the E string open. So it really is it's not just a sus2 anymore, because in a sus chord, we have no third.
Right.
And we've got the third here in the bass. We're playing F sharp in the bass, right? So what are we going to call this chord with D with F sharp in the bass, but we've got an E in it too?
Well, that would be the 4th, wouldn't it?
Not for a D chord.
Oh no, D. Sus2.
Only we have the third. Sus means no third.
Oh, okay, okay.
We've got the third in the bass.
Right. We adding 2?
Yeah, except then we don't call it 2 in this case. We go with it an octave higher.
we go with an octave higher, so it's 9.
Right. So the best name for this chord is D add 9 with F/F sharp.
Okay.
And the add, just to review, add is what you use with any number, any of the bigger numbers, 9, 11, or 13,
Yep.
when there's no seventh.
Right.
Add means no seventh. If we just call the chord D9, we got to have a seventh in there.
Another 7th there. Right.
Right. So that's what we end up with this. D add 9 with F sharp in the bass.
Okay. All right.
Okay, you got all that?
Now I got a lot to learn. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty staring at things here. So that's
Yeah.
good. Okay, that's great.
Yeah, good. That was fun. I'm glad you brought that up because there was just a ton of stuff. As you can see, there's a ton of stuff we could learn from this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there is. You know, that's I found out with all these songs.
Right.
There's always something with these. Every week I can find something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's great.
You know, when we started, I'll stop the recording now. But when we started,